Hey folks, lack of response here. It's time for another round of the good, the bad, and the weird. Today we are looking at this knife, the Strider SMF. Let's sit down and take a close look. Here we are looking at the Strider SMF today. We are going to talk about the good, which is things I like about the knife. The bad, which are things that somehow work against the knife or detrimental, could be better. You get the idea. And the weird, the things that make it different, unique, and interesting and make it stand out. And in accordance with prophecy, we start with measurements and size comparisons. Measurement. About 3.5 a cutting edge, maybe 4 overall if you're coming close to the handle. About 9 inches. Or a little smooch over. Total. Size comparisons. The Spyderco Manix, which a lot of people find comparable to a Strider, just because the ergos, because we got a nice finger choil and an opening hole. We have the large Sebenza 21 for size comparison. And because we're talking about Strider, may as well get the whole Trinity out there. The Hinderer XM24. When I first got into knife collecting, Chris Reeve, Strider, and Hinderer were considered the Holy Trinity. These were the most desirable of the high-end production knives. Mid-tech, semi-custom, whatever verbiage you want to use. They're made in small batches, a lot of human attention fussing over the knife to make sure it's tuned properly and the action's good and everything's right. Hinderers were still pretty hard to get because he was only selling to like military and first responders. Chris Reeve was expensive, but it was out there at the knife retailers. Strider was competing with Chris Reeve. Now, Strider is the one that's hardest to get your hands on because they're just not making as many as they used to. They've kind of discontinued their production line for the most part, and so they're doing more of these small batch premium things. Chris Reeve, from what I hear, it's just a long wait to get your hands on one because they are still in demand and there's still so many. And Hinderers, if you keep an eye on DLT Trading and a couple of White Mountain Knives and your favorite knife retailers, Hinderers will show up every couple of months. So attainability is, I feel like, less of an issue. E-Knives is where I got my Strider. I've also seen them on Knife Center. So they are out there. You can still get your hands on Striders. But we'll talk more about that later. So we've done some measurements. We've done some size comparisons. One other size comparison for us. The ProTech SNG. Just so you kind of have an idea about the difference between SNG and SMF. SMF is the big boy. This one, when I bought it, it was an auto, but I took the spring out because I'm not a big fan of autos. Okay. So, we did not do a thickness comparison. Let's do a thickness. Let's go the SMF, the XM24, and the Sebenza. So, yes, it's a thick boy, but for the largest knife in the lineup, that is to be expected. It's a big, chunky, tactical thing. Let's put these aside. The lanyard's my own just to make it easier to get in and out of knife cases. So, the good. I love Strider ergonomics. I've talked about that before in other videos. You can hang back if you want and have a nice, comfy grip for chopping. It's got a thick enough spine you can chop with it if you want. got a hollow grind, so it does get nice and slicey. It didn't arrive super sharp out of the box, but that's, we'll talk about that in the second category if I remember. The lock bar stabilizer, which is a feature you will also see on Hinderers. I don't know whether Hinder or Strider started doing it first, but that's really just there so that way you can't push the lock bar out too far. And it also prevents the lock bar from being bent that direction. So that's why it's a lock bar stabilizer versus an over-travel stop like you might see inserted around the detent ball as part of like the steel lock bar insert that just simply stops it from getting pushed out that way. The disc here prevents it from going too far this way and too far that way. So that's good. I like the thumb hole. Is that thumb hole chamfered? Not much, but I feel like that nice black DLC coating, whatever it is, it feels like the chalky stuff that ProTech does. I like that coating. Let's look at the markings on the blade. Let's zoom in. That is a Strider logo, MagnaCut USA. Strider is a US-made brand. And M Strider because Mick Strider is the Strider Knives person. So there we go. And zoom back out. So the good, it's got a nice big MagnaCut blade. It's got a nice comfy handle. I did have to disassemble this one when I got it, and it's pretty easy to take apart and put back together. You have some simple standoff construction, a few screws. The pivot was easy enough. You can get a big Allen key in there and twist that out. I don't know if you can see it. There you can. It's got a pass-through pivot. That's kind of neat. I just like I always wanted a Strider, but by the time I was in a position where I could get one, the production line had gone away. So, talking about the good, it also has a separate sharpening choil that is separate from the finger choil. So you do have that little bit of guard without your risk of your finger getting cut. And you can sharpen without losing your ergonomics. So that's good. The bad. I have a couple of gripes about it. When I first got this knife, the action was not great. The pivot felt like it wouldn't flick. It was very much, the detent felt too strong, essentially. It was hard to open. There you go. You had to give it a little wrist. It is on washers, which is part of that, but the other part was the detent was just too strong. So I had to take this knife apart, remove the lock bar stabilizer, or just remove the lock bar stabilizer if you're lazy, and bend the lock bar out farther than that stabilizer will out to help reduce the detent. And the knife also arrived not very sharp. It wouldn't cut paper. So I had to sit there and sharpen it myself. I was kind of annoyed at having to do maintenance on a knife that I had just bought. So that was bad, especially for what I paid. I'm one of those knife collectors. If I pay a bunch of money for a knife that is on my grail list, something I've been craving for a long time and I can finally get it, I want perfection out of the box. Which, for what Striders cost nowadays, we're talking about a 4-digit price tag. $1,000+ I feel like it should be flawless out of the box for that much money, because, we can talk about knives that come in for a few hundred when it was available on this one. Or knives that come in for $100 even, flawless out of the box. Why can't a $1,000 knife be flawless out of the box? Do you know? Tell us in the comments. I'm sorry, I'm trying to not cough in your ears, folks. I'm getting over a cold. But yeah, the bad was it needed work right out of the box to make it something that I could happily carry and use. The weird. Striders kind of half went away. That was weird. Why did they go away? There used to be Striders out there for comparable pricing to a Sebenza. And that's not a thing anymore. And I don't understand why. If you do, tell us in the comments. But there we go. That's the Strider SMF. The good, the bad, and the weird of it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell us what you think of this knife in the comments. And stay tuned for more.